All right, it is finally here. This is the next gen optimized version of Destiny 2 running on the Xbox Series X. Now, I'm going to dig into this particular version. All of the changes are going to be identical on the PS5 version as well. I'm just capturing from the Xbox Series X today. So, first things first, the new sort of real big changes are under the video tab, to be honest. You'll probably remember before the screen bounds and the brightness were the only options available in this video menu. Now you've got a new 120 hertz mode, which is obviously only in Crucible. Probably the bigger one though for most people is going to be field of view. So by default, it's set to 75. Now you can crank it all the way up. You can go all the way up to 105 FOV. So that's pretty good if you like sort of seeing stuff around you. It's particularly in Crucible. It's really useful. It just gives you a much wider field of view of the whole entire game. Now, if you're not used to 105 field of view, you've never played on PC Destiny before, I would recommend going to sort of 90 to between 90 and 100, I guess, and just don't probably go straight to 105 unless you really want to get used to it. But that might be like a stepping stone. You also got other options to just disable like motion blur and some of the film grain stuff. You can flick those on and off depending on your sort of preferences, really. Right, so I want to show you what 105 field of view looks like. We're going to load into the Cosmodrome here. And also, the other thing I didn't mention yet is that this actually comes with a 60 frames per second mode as well by default. So you obviously get 120 frames per second in Crucible. If you've got a TV that supports that, you will need a HDMI 2.1 TV if you want to do 120 frames at 4K. But you might be able to get away with 120 hertz mode on a HDMI 2 TV. It just depends whether your TV or monitor supports those particular modes. But it's worth checking out whether you can do that. The option will be in the menu there regardless, but it might not work depending on your TV. So here we are. We are now running at 60 frames per second on the Xbox Series X. It's going to feel and look just a lot more smooth, like just smoother gameplay all around. Obviously before it was on 30 frames per second, which, you know, was fine, but it wouldn't always hit that 30 frames per second. You'd often find it would drop below that, especially in like sort of like an activity like this, like a public event. Some of the raids, all that sort of stuff, even in Crucible, it probably would drop below at certain points. I'm going to have to sort of work out whether it drops very much here from 60, but it obviously feels and looks a heck of a lot smoother right now. I'm going to try out the Crucible mode and see what that feels like as well. But yeah, 60 hertz, 60 frames, should I say? 60 frames per second, Destiny 2 next gen patch, it's here. Now I'm going to go into Crucible. What I want to do is I'll go into a private match and just show you kind of like the differences between the field of view, just so that people sort of understand exactly what it's going to look like essentially. So if we're going to like a clash game, go think probably like Javelin, Jav4, it's a pretty good one. Just go into that, and I'll show you like sort of the differences between the field of view that exists right now on the Xbox One, and the field of view advantage you're going to get from basically switching up to 105. Like I said earlier, you don't have to necessarily go all the way up to 105. I would probably recommend it just to get used to it, but the problem with upping that field of view is it does mean it's a little bit more difficult, or you have to get used to hitting your targets in a bit of a different way, because they actually feel a lot like closer or a lot further away depending on which sort of field of view you set. So, people who know about field of view will obviously know a bunch about this already, and there's plenty of games that already have these options. But it's worth just noting the fishbowl sort of fisheye effect is a lot less in Destiny, but it is there. So we're currently running. No, I don't have the 120 frames per second mode enabled on here just yet. Not that you would actually be able to see it on YouTube anyway. But we're running at 60 frames on the Xbox Series X here with 105 field of view. So you'll notice if I stand like on this corner here, like I emote. Actually, I'll leave that up for a second. You can see the sort of the amount of the area of the sort of map that you can see. Now, if I switch this back to, we'll go back to the default, which is 75. All the way down here, we'll hit apply. We go back and look at what I can see. I can just basically see the wall. I can't see anything around me. So this is obviously going to give you a big advantage, particularly in the Crucible. Even like for doing raids and stuff, it's super useful just to have the field of view up anyway. But obviously in Crucible, you're going to be able to not like see around corners, but you just see like a wider part of the map. So you can see enemies coming from maybe you wouldn't have seen them, like in the very corners of the map. And obviously you use your radar anyway. But this is it's just super useful. I'd highly recommend trying to get used to 105. But I can understand going from like 75 to 105 is pretty drastic. But yeah, anyway, that's basically the big two changes. 60 frames per second, obviously 120 in Crucible, and the field of view. Those are the main changes you really need to know about. Most of the loading times are going to be pretty similar. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to crank this. I'm actually recording at 1440p right now, just so I can voice it over easily. I'm going to crank it up to 4K on this YouTube. Just show you some sort of basic 60 frames per second gameplay, and then some of the 120 frames per second gameplay as well. Anyway, we'll go into that now, and I hope you enjoyed the video.
Those faults, acting like they own this place.
Take down that servitor as they start.
Finished off that servitor.
They were counting on those supplies. Well done.
Service log updated. Daily tasks underway.
Mayhem! Arsai, bring me that haggis while I call this match. No, those are bullets. Oh, never mind. I'll do it myself. let me take this without a fight. Fight again. Persistence is key.